With SRN News, I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. Will President Trump follow through on a campaign promise to pull the U.S. out of the landmark nuclear deal with Iran? That decision will be announced this afternoon at the White House. U.S. withdrawal could ensure the pact's collapse. There's no indication that European allies enlisted to fix the deal have persuaded him to preserve it. After signing a $1.3 trillion budget deal that he vowed never to repeat, the president is also asking Congress to slash spending by about $15 billion.
He'll use an obscure provision called rescission that allows the president to propose cutting previously approved spending. Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy says these cuts have nothing to do with the recently approved budget.
It's looking at funding that's been sitting aside more than 1, 2, and 3 years that cannot be used and are just sitting in an account. Why would you let it sit there and waste and not give it back to the American public?
Most of the proposed cuts come from programs that have expired or haven't been used in decades. Conservatives argue that the cuts should be much higher.
That is Capitol Hill correspondent Wally Hines reporting. The Department of Homeland Security is playing catch-up in helping to ensure that state election systems are secure.
4 states, West Virginia, Indiana, Ohio, and North Carolina, have primaries on Tuesday, but the Department of Homeland Security still hasn't conducted a cyber attack risk assessment of election systems in Indiana. DHS has inspected election systems in Ohio and North Carolina, while West Virginia officials haven't submitted a request yet, but plan to do so before November.
That is correspondent Mike Grazia reporting. The Labor Department says that job openings rose 7.8% in March from 6.1 million in February. Meanwhile, overall hiring slipped. The number of people who left their jobs increased. The number of open jobs in March matched the number of unemployed. Typically, there are more unemployed people than job openings. On Wall Street right now, the Dow is off 101 points. The NASDAQ is down by 31. This is SRN News. The Family Research Council says President Trump's 2017 religious freedom order has allowed scores of Christian colleges to operate without fear of lawsuits.
You also have umbrella groups providing 13.7 million people with health care and other services.
FRC spokesman Travis Weber says Trump appointments have helped.
It matters that people take a robust view of religious freedom, want to significantly protect it, not just protect it in certain instances that they like, but fully across the board.
The FRC has done a full report on the benefits of the executive order 1 year on. The Education Committee of the Kentucky Senate is currently considering a bill that would establish a day of prayer in the public schools. HB 40 has already passed the Kentucky House of Representatives. Supporters of the measure want to find a constitutional way to bring prayer back into the classroom in 2 landmark judgments, one in 1962 and the other in 1963. The Supreme Court declared prayers led by school officials to be unconstitutional. This is SRN News. The Associated Press has found that Russian hackers masqueraded as Islamic State supporters to threaten outspoken wives of U.S. military personnel, people like Army wife Angela Ricketts.
You think you're safe, but the IS is already here. Cyber Caliphate got into your PC and smartphone. We know everything about you, your husband, and your children, and we're much closer than you can even imagine.
In 2015, 5 women received similar threats from a group claiming to represent ISIS. New fissures have opened up around that volcano on Hawaii's Big Island, and that's driving more people out of their homes.
I have not been in since last Thursday, so I have no idea. My home is right in the line of the major breakouts, so maybe not.
That is evacuated homeowner Andrew Nesbitt. Officials say there are 12 fissures now that have opened up in the Leilani Estates area. And again, about 36 homes have been destroyed. More details at srnnews.com. From Washington, I'm Bob Agnew.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 14,
41, 31, 13.
We took a left on Carroll Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted. I realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
They were outnumbered, out-equipped. They had no chance of winning, but they had one huge advantage: General George Washington.
The fate of unborn millions will now depend, under God, on the courage and conduct of this army. We have to resolve to conquer or die.
Just as the leadership of one man helped form a nation, today leadership can transform the world. Leadership is in you. Now pass it on from passiton.com.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Tuesday, May 8th, 2018. Silver is trading at $16.50 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,311 per ounce. Zencash is trading at $37, and the average price of Bitcoin is $9,113. Antiwar.com reports in a tweet on Monday afternoon, President Trump said he will announce his decision on the Iran nuclear deal in his May 12th ultimatum on Tuesday afternoon at 2 p.m. Though some officials have suggested Trump will likely withdraw from the deal, analysts appear split on what to expect. Trump has been sour on the Iran deal since before the election and demanded massive changes by May 12th to keep the U.S. in. European nations have offered a package of concessions to the U.S., though it's not clear what or whether it will be enough. Some analysts suggest Trump might sign one last waiver for sanctions relief obligated under the deal as a way of delaying the decision. In this case, Trump would likely continue to refuse to certify the deal either way, but not directly violate it with new sanctions. The price of oil has been rising in recent weeks, expecting the restoration of U.S. sanctions. Officials say that whether or not the sanctions are put back in place, their impact will be far less than the pre-2015 sanctions, since the other P5+1 nations remain committed to the nuclear deal.
For over 40 years, Robertson Roberts Brokerage has been a trusted source for buying and selling precious metals like gold and silver. And as a Bitcoin-preferred business, Robertson Roberts Brokerage has removed the minimum purchase amount for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Robertson Roberts Brokerage today for knowledgeable advice on buying and selling precious metals and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 800-874-9760 or visit online at rrbi.co. UPI reports the U.S. Department of Treasury placed sanctions on 3 Venezuelans and 20 entities related to drug trafficking on Monday. Vice President Mike Pence announced the sanctions during a speech at the Organization of American States in Washington, D.C., describing the subjects as narcotic kingpins with direct ties to Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro's regime. Pence says, "We have frozen their assets, blocked their access to our nation so they can no longer poison our people with their deadly drugs." The Treasury Department's Office of Foreign Asset Control said it identified Venezuela national Pedro Luis Martinez Oliveras as a significant foreign narcotics trafficker pursuant to the Foreign Narcotics Kingpin Designation Act. He's alleged to have exploited his position as a former chief of financial intelligence for Venezuela's National Directorate of Intelligence and Prevention Services and accepted bribes for drug traffickers in Venezuela and Colombia to traffic narcotics through Venezuela's airspace, according to the report. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said this action is in response to Martin's extensive drug trafficking and money laundering activities. Systemic corruption and a collapse in the rule of law are defining features of Venezuela's government. We will deny corrupt Venezuelan regime officials access to the U.S. financial system as we work with international partners to support the Venezuelan people in a restoration of democracy and a return to prosperity. Walter Alexander del Nogal Marquez and Mario Antonio Rodriguez Espinoza are also designated for assisting Martin Oliveras in his international narcotics trafficking activities. The Department of Treasury further designated 20 companies, 16 of which were based in Venezuela and 4 in Panama, that were owned or controlled by the 3 men and allegedly used to launder illicit proceeds from narcotics trafficking and extortion. In January, the Treasury issued sanctions against 4 Venezuelan government officials accused of having association with corruption and repression. Are you looking for a cryptocurrency that has a focus on users and usability? Then look into Zencash. Zencash is the world's first private, distributed, and reliable platform for communications, transactions, and publishing. Zencash features global governance with inclusive decision-making, reliable funding for continuous improvements, and documentation and wallets in many languages that are available for Linux, Mac, Windows, and Android devices. Learn more at Zencash.com.
Reuters reports the FAA is investigating a collision between a Southwest Airlines aircraft and a truck at Baltimore Washington International Airport. The airline said Southwest Flight 6263 was pulling into the gate at BWI Sunday evening after flying from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, when a ground vehicle came into contact with the aircraft. Passengers got off the plane using stairs that were pulled up to the aircraft. There were no injuries reported to the 172 passengers aboard the plane. Michelle Agnew, spokeswoman for Southwest Airlines, said, "As with any event, we will conduct an internal investigation to learn what happened. It would be irresponsible to provide details until we've had time to thoroughly review the facts." This has been FPP Radio News. Online at fppradio.com.
Major art theft in Boston overnight. 2 thieves posing as police officers overpowered museum guards.
Very dramatically said, "Gentlemen, this is a robbery."
A part of our heritage has been stolen.
This horrible thing occurred in 1990. Everything changed because of that.
Someone on the inside helped the thieves.
From the guys who brought you Missing Maura Murray and Crawl Space.
Empty Frames will be available on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your favorite podcasts on February 6th.
Iran deal. I'm Ed Donahue with an AP News Minute. President Trump announces later today if the U.S. stays in the Iran nuclear deal or gets out. Former Secretary of State John Kerry says it's common sense to stay in. The deal is working.
Why on earth would you voluntarily, by choice, decide we're going to pull out?
But on Twitter, President Trump says Kerry can't get over the fact that he had his chance and blew it. He added, "Stay away from negotiations, John. You are hurting your country." New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is praising the women who accuse Attorney General Eric Schneiderman of sexual misconduct.
They had the courage to make it public. They had the courage to take on an Attorney General who they believe threatened them not to go public.
Schneiderman has resigned. University of Cincinnati trustees have revoked Bill Cosby's honorary degree. At least 24 other schools rescinded honors for Cosby before and after his sexual assault conviction. I'm Ed Donahue.
If you're a fan of podcasts, chances are you've thought about starting your own. But once you've recorded your show, what are the next steps? How do you reach listeners and build an audience? Well, Audioboom can help with our $9.99 monthly subscription plan for hosting and distribution. With Audioboom's $9.99 subscription plan, you get 200 minutes of recording time for each episode, a branded homepage on the Audioboom platform, embeddable players for web and social media, unlimited storage, and episode scheduling. Plus, thanks to Audioboom's partnerships with the leading distribution and streaming platforms, your show may be eligible for placement on Apple Podcasts, Deezer, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Savin, Spotify, and Stitcher, pending approval by each platform. And with Audioboom's advanced analytics, you'll be able to see how often your show has been downloaded, what devices your audience used to listen to your show, the age, gender, and location of your listeners, and so much more. To sign up for your $9.99 monthly subscription plan, go to audioboom.com/start and sign up today. That's AUDIOBOOM.com/START. Sign up now and get the support you need to start your podcast today. That's audioboom.com/start.
Hey, Steve Harvey here for the Illinois Broadcasters Association, and in a recent survey, the Illinois Emergency Management Agency was asked to name the top 5 items that every Illinois family needs to have in their home's emergency disaster kit. Check out these answers. Water, can't live without it. Number 2, non-perishable food. Well, after all, a man gotta eat, right? Number 3, weather radio, and make sure you got fresh batteries too. Number 4, flashlight. Even more reason to have fresh batteries on hand. Number 5, first aid kit. Look, there's no reason to feud over what items to put in your family's emergency disaster kit. Get the answers and more at ready.illinois.gov. That's ready.illinois.gov.
Sponsored by the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, aired in cooperation with the Illinois Broadcasters Association and this station.
From CBC News, The World This Hour, I'm Tom Harrington. Will he or won't he? An hour from now, President Donald Trump plans to announce whether he will pull the United States out of the international deal with Iran. The agreement was signed by the U.S., the United Nations, and European states in order to curb Iran's ability to produce nuclear weapons. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says He hopes the pact with Iran stays in place no matter what Trump decides.
I hope the JCPOA stays in place. Iran with nuclear capacities is a threat not just to the region but the whole world, and certainly hope we're able to continue to keep on the path to preventing Iran from developing.
Have you talked to Donald Trump about this?
This morning, French President Emmanuel Macron spoke with Trump by phone, urging him not to scrap the deal, but to work on improving it instead. Macron says there was no indication which way the president is leaning. Meantime, there are developments in another international nuclear challenge for Donald Trump, North Korea. The reclusive leader of that country has traveled to China for talks with President Xi Jinping. Kim Jong-un once again confirmed his desire to give up nuclear weapons. From Beijing, Sacha Petrusik reports.
This two-day summit wasn't the live TV spectacle of last month's North-South Korea summit. It was kept secret until well over. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un repeated a commitment to denuclearization. He even said he has no need to keep nuclear weapons if the other relevant party, the U.S., drops what he calls its hostile policy and security threats. It was the second meeting between Kim and Chinese President Xi Jinping since Pyongyang opened the doors to diplomacy, and it suggests growing cooperation between the historical allies after a period of tension over North Korea's nuclear and missile tests. China imposed tough economic sanctions on North Korea reluctantly. Sacha Petrusik, CBC News, Beijing.
We have never seen anything as despicable as what we've seen here.
That is New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman last fall leading the charge against movie mogul Harvey Weinstein. Today, one of the champions of the Me Too movement resigned in disgrace. A report in the New Yorker magazine last night detailed graphic accounts from 4 women accusing him of sexual assault. Schneiderman is denying the allegations, claiming his relations with the women were consensual. Another member of the federal NDP has been suspended from her duties as an MP amid allegations of inappropriate misconduct. A veteran of the Afghan war has accused Quebec MP Christine Moore of inappropriate sexual behavior. He alleges Moore used her position of authority to take advantage of him and sent him explicit messages. In a statement, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh says he will be appointing an independent investigator to look into these allegations. Here at home, the floodwaters in New Brunswick are going down, but local officials warn it will take days, possibly weeks, for them to go back to normal levels. They're recommending people stay away from evacuated areas a little while longer. Jeffrey Downey is a spokesperson for the Emergency Measures Organization.
For now, we're encouraging people to not go to their homes too soon, wait until it's safe, wait until there's the opportunity, and head back then.
Officials worry that roads and other infrastructure may be unsafe after 2 weeks of floods. They anticipate it will take a week before water levels in the St. John area drop below the 5-meter mark. Well, if last night's debate was the opening act of the Ontario election campaign, the Conservative team seems to have taken the moment literally. They've acknowledged that actors were hired to play the part of supporters outside the debate location. A spokesperson for the Doug Ford team says it was arranged by a local candidate and it won't be continuing. Asked about the actors, Ford said he was unaware of what had happened. Ontarians go to the polls on June 7th. And that is your World This Hour. You can listen to us live on your mobile device using the CBC Radio app or anytime on voice-activated devices such as Amazon Echo or Google Home. For CBC News, I'm Tom Harrington.
Early to bed, early to rise makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise.
And all was Benjamin Franklin wise. So you actually think electricity can pass through metal? Ha! Ben Franklin, go fly a kite.
Excellent idea. Where are my keys?
Besides the bifocals, Ben invented the Franklin stove, the odometer. Whoa! Oh, and the lightning rod. Ingenuity, pass it on. From the Foundation for a Better Life at values.com.
This is Betty White. I know you don't need one more thing to worry about, but listen, high blood pressure can cause kidney damage, blindness, heart attack, stroke, and you can have high blood pressure even if you feel all right. 1 in 7 adults has it, but it's easy to get your blood pressure checked, and you can treat it if it is too high. So don't worry about it, don't ignore it, just see your doctor and check it out.
For your free booklet, visit the Will Rogers Institute at wrinstitute.org and find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
An Elite Eight for LeBron James. I'm Jeff Biggs, and a pretty big mark in the NBA. LeBron James is going to appear in the Eastern Conference Finals for the 8th year in a row. 4th straight year with the Cavs, who completed the sweep of the top-seeded Raptors.
Me personally, my confidence never wavers. It's just who I am. I believe in what I bring to the table, what I can provide to our team, and I believe in my teammates. So as everyone was burying my teammates alive, I just continue to tell them, listen, we can't win without each and every one doing their job and being as great as they can be.
Now, next up, the Cavs will face either the Celtics or the Sixers, who will play a Game 5 in Boston after a chippy Game 4 in Philly that featured some good pushing and shoving between Terry Rozier and Joel Embiid.
Set the record straight. I wake up every morning not worried about nobody. No man on this earth, and it's just out there having fun. It's just part of the basketball game, so that's all it is.
Tried to punch me twice, but too bad he's so short that he couldn't get to my face.
Tonight, the much-anticipated Western Conference Finals matchup could be set. Both the Warriors and the Rockets will try to wrap up their series at home. It's a rare night off for the Stanley Cup playoffs, but they are still celebrating in D.C., where Alex Ovechkin and the Caps finally made it past the second round for Ovechkin. He was 0 for 6.
Finally, it's been too long. Finally we beat Pittsburgh, and finally we moved to the next round. We didn't go home. We go into vacation. We're still battling, and it's fun, and we have to enjoy it, and we have to keep going.
And with the Penguins out, that means there will be a new Stanley Cup champion. Baseball tonight, round 2, Red Sox and Yankees from the Bronx. I'm Jeff Biggs. This is NBC Sports Radio.